A very pleasant morning to our participants from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, wherever you are right now. And I hope you are all safe and sound and healthy. Okay. A pleasant morning too goes to my colleagues at SEI and, of course, to our distinguished resource person. It is a great honor to host the third webinar for this year entitled Strategies in Addressing ICT Inequality in Remote Learning, the Community-Based Academic Network, to be presented by a very competent resource person from the University of the Philippines, none other than Professor John Paul Maligalig. We hope to gain insights on the terms ICT and what community-based academic network is all about. Okay. It is good to note that we have a number of science and math teachers over Zoom, and I think more participants over FB Live. This webinar is brought to you by the Project Science Teacher Academy for the Regions or STAR of the Science Education Institute, Department of Science and Technology. We hope that you find this webinar valuable to you as an educator, and may you bring learnings from this webinar into your classroom or into your teaching practice. So we won't keep this long. We hope you stay tuned, and may you have a productive session today. At the end of the webinar, there will be few assessment questions for you to answer, and eventually you'll be given a certificate of completion. So once again, a warm welcome to all of you, my dear teachers. Welcome to this webinar today. Thank you very much. And now we proceed right away to the webinar proper. We would like to introduce our resource person. No introduction actually, but just a short but sweet intro for our resource person. Okay. Professor Maligalig is an educational technology practitioner and advocate who teaches at the College of Education, University of the Philippines, Diliman. He specializes in learning system design, educational media production, game-based learning, and gamification of learning. Without further ado, it's a great pleasure to introduce Professor John Paul Maligalig, our resource person. Take it away, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning. Good morning. It's been a weird start to this day. We had some tremors here, but everything seems to be fine. Nobody's panicking. So I'm back in the room with you guys. So welcome. Thank you for attending this talk. This isn't a new idea. This was actually proposed way back in October of last year. However, developments in civil society movements now implored me to try again to a more specific audience, this time an audience of science teachers. So maybe this will catch on with you. So I'd like to preface this talk by saying this is the combination of two talks. One I did for students, so that later half of that talk will be addressed to students. But of course, as teachers, you can see where you'll be coming from when we're talking about that. But the first half was done in October last year, and July last year, and it's easy to understand now that we have movements like the community pantry movement that this could have been done a lot sooner, but now is better than later, diba? So I will also be switching between English and Filipino depending on our discussion. Baka sabihin ninyo puro English lang yung kaya ko, hindi naman So I'm going to interfere with the screen sharing. Sorry, SEI colleagues. So we're going to be talking about the community-based academic network, an idea which actually comes from typical academic networks, but coming from my development communication roots, I want an academic network to be community-based, and I'll explain further with this talk. So, as we may have already experienced, we were in a rush to really make learning possible during this pandemic times. Now, we rushed by using technology as a stopgap measure for educational continuance. Now, there's nothing bad about using technology for learning. In fact, that's what I advocate. But there is some planning involved. And unfortunately, the pandemic really rushed us into making decisions that could have been better made with more time and more planning done. That's not to take away from the achievements of our different learning system managers, our administrations of the different schools, colleges, and universities. Pero, di ba, we can do better. And this talk is all about that. We can still do better. But let's take the pressure off those systems. So, in a survey I did last year for UP students, so I won't generalize this to everyone, but I do think that this can be comparable to what you're experiencing right now. So what we have in our learning systems are learners with limited tech access and social support. We have teachers who are really dedicated, but they lack the technology and instructional design experience. I'm not saying wala, pero kulang pa. Okay? Sino ba naman nag-isip na gagawin natin to magtuturo tayo through Zoom? EdTech or IT practitioners with high workloads and no help. Maliit lang ang IT divisions. Okay? I can attest to this, especially na what SEI doesn't know probably is I'm a DOST baby. I grew up in Picard, where my mother was head of MISD. Okay. So I know all about networks. I know how big their team was. And it was supposed to support one entire DOST agency. So maliit na nga yung team traditionally. And then you have a pandemic where everything is dependent on IT. So you can just imagine how many sleepless nights we have. We have administrators with multiple roles and vague data. Suddenly, administrators are also becoming teachers. Suddenly, they also have to deal with 3 different tasks of management that before they only had one. And with the lack of IT support for data collection, you end up with big data. How can you make decisions? Diba? Malabo na nga yung datos natin. Ano pa mangyayari doon sa decision natin? And finally, parents and communities with no idea how to help. Diba? Our parents are not trained to teach. That's one. Pero they could be good teachers. Diba? You have a retired engineer somewhere who is doing nothing except watching TV, probably, being annoyed at being asked to stay at home, but they can actually do something pa. So, according to a World Bank policy brief, here are some opportunities for EdTech. Within weeks, sayang, hindi na natin nagawa. We have some semblance of these things, pero not robust solutions. Okay, so within weeks, an opportunity would be a grassroots platform where teachers can share EdTech solutions. Grassroots meaning nakabase sa local schools, sa communities natin. Hindi siya centralized. Okay, we have centralized platforms. Unfortunately, not everyone is able to access them. So dapat may local na available sana. Broadcast lessons through TV and radio. We know how that turned out. Create online one-stop shops for learning resources for students and parents to access. Now, ito ay not for teachers specifically, pero a one-stop shop. Now, you have YouTube, you have different websites giving you resources for the different topics that you need for your schooling. However, it's not compiled in just one website, one service. Okay, so within weeks, we probably have some of those. tingnan naman natin, within a year, so it's been a year, okay? So check natin. Education through technology can be gamified to sustain learning. Now, gamification is another topic worthy of another webinar probably. Pero suffice to say, pag ginamify natin siya, we're taking elements from video games, board games, even the physical games we used to play outside. Yes, we used to do that outside. Naalala nyo pa what outside looks like? So we take elements from those and we try to incorporate them into something that we're doing. In this case, learning at home. So maganda sana na may gamification to increase motivation. That's the biggest problem that we have in our students nowadays. So we can also gather data for policy making to cope with the crisis, so we can make better decisions. So nakikita nyo yung parallel niya dun sa earlier survey natin. And of course, have appropriate technologies. The word here is appropriate. Now, tools by themselves, neutral yan. They can be useful, they can be not useful. But there is no wrong technology. However, there is an appropriate one and there are inappropriate ones. Appropriate means sakto lang siya, di ba? Mahirap po na kumain tayo ng kanin at palabok ng sabay. There are some of you who probably enjoy that. I personally don't. So that's inappropriate for me, but appropriate for you. That's why we use the term appropriate. Okay? Importante po yan. There are no wrong technologies, only inappropriate ones. We can use them to address learning gaps that appear during this crisis. Okay? Down the line ito. Have we done this? Any of these? Maybe to some degree, but not entirely. So you can see within weeks, within a year, there are still opportunities for educational technology to come in to help out. Now, here are some principles to consider when we're talking about using EdTech. No? So the best technology is the one you already have, know how to use, and can afford. Don't overspend. What you already have probably is best for you. Once you figure out that you need to level up your skill or level up your technology use, then that's the only time that you consider purchasing something new and do your research. You are math and science teachers in this webinar, so I understand that you already know what I mean when I say do your research. Excuse me. Okay, start down and out, then move up and in. So we start down. What's the minimum requirement for everybody? Okay, probably print modules. Okay, down and out meaning we start wide. What is the access of the masses when it comes to the students using technology? What are their needs? Okay, then slowly move up and in, becoming more specific to each and everyone's use. This school may need computers. This school may only need tablets. This school may not need any, but they need probably TV or radio lessons. So it's different, okay? But the important thing is you become more specific. You start generally, okay? When you treat teachers like the problem, they will be. Administrators should take this to heart. It's the content, not the container. It's always important to consider what your content actually is. We don't fit the content for the different educational media that we have. Okay? The face-to-face lesson is different from something that you deliver online. That's just the way it is. You will have to redesign some of these things. But the important thing is at the essence of your lesson is the content. Okay? So content is like water. It follows the container shape. But if you force, say, ice into a container, then you have a problem. Now, if you're pointed in the wrong direction, technology will help you get there faster. So it's important. Alam natin yung end goals natin, yung outcomes natin. Okay? Because if you don't, then technology will only make you overshoot whatever it is that you wanted to achieve. Okay? Think of it as Waze or Google Maps. So if you're navigating with your car or you're walking to a certain place, okay? If you pin down the wrong destination, di ba? The technology will only tell you how to get to that wrong destination. So it's important for us to be able to figure out where we really want to go. Okay? Sige. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Matthew effects. This is a term we use in the social sciences. Pero let me explain. The term comes from a particular verse from the book of Matthew that, of course, gist na lang po ito, no? It says something like, those who have will get more. Those who don't have will get whatever they have taken away pa. So, anticipate and mitigate Matthew effects. For those who have less access to information and communication technologies, they tend to learn less. Okay? Kasi they don't have access to the content. And if they get less content, they perform poorly in their lessons, they probably get held back to another grade where they repeat the whole thing. And if this situation continues, they still don't have access. So this really just going to delay them, delay their schooling. So we already have to anticipate these Matthew effects. Just because we have the technology in the school doesn't mean that the students at home will have the same technology. So we'll have to mitigate for these Matthew effects. To succeed in doing something difficult, you may need to first fail. Okay, this is important. Okay, the worst thing you can do in school now is fail. Okay, get grade below 75 in our day and age. Okay, panahon namin 75 ang passing. Or if you're in college, depends on your GPA. We follow a 1 to 5, 1 being the highest, which is weird. Diba? So if you get a 5, that's a failing grade. Now, it's important to understand that the process of learning includes failure. Okay? The tricky part here is when we think of education, failure nga is the worst thing that could happen. Pero it's a part of the learning process. Now, transfer natin to us teachers using technology. If you want to learn something difficult for you, take note that you will fail. And it's okay. Okay? It's fine. Walang problema. You may have an emoji for a face during your Zoom classes. You may end up giving the test answers to a particular online test. Walang problema doon. That's the first time. The important thing is you learned how not to do it the next time, di ba? Now, of course, I'm an advocate of failure and getting back up. So, kung naranasan natin yun bilang teacher, sana maisip din natin for our students na it's okay for them to fail, pero nandun tayo to support them, to help them back up. Di ba? Yun yung maganda doon. Let's put sustainability first when we're using technology. Of course, it's important na kailangan pwede natin siyang i-sustain. We can keep things going. Okay? Don't use any technology or any media that is not sustainable for your use. We know a lot about worst practices. We should make sure we don't repeat them, as I said in 7. And finally, a blank. Kasi sabi ng author, let's leave things blank kasi you can include your own. Yun yung maganda. Note that he gives the power of choice. Whatever you put in 10 is your choice. So choices are important. Okay? Before, time teachers, we have control of everything in the classroom. The classroom is our realm. It is our kingdom. Walang makakagulo dito. Okay? Now, we have a lost kingdom. Wala na tayo sa classroom. So, para sa akin, it was important when you were making choices for your students. Now, you have to include them in your choices. Okay? When you choose, you should get some feedback. Ano ba yung gusto nila? How do they want to learn? How do they want to be assessed? It's scary for a teacher to think na where you're losing control. Pero what is control? Except something that is really artificial. You can never control everything. So there's a learning curve here for our next school year if this continues. Think about choice. How important choice has become during this pandemic and how much empowerment your students must feel if you give them the power to choose. Okay? And of course, kayo ay science teacher, so I understand that this has been told to you numerous times. The important thing here is, excuse me, that communication, collaboration, critical thinking, and creativity should be integrated in all of your lessons, especially those where technology is used. So, gumagamit tayo ng ICT ngayon, it's important that you have activities where your students communicate with you, with their peers. They collaborate. They work in teams. That's how the world works. Anyway, you work in teams. You rarely work alone. Okay? Critical thinking, hindi na ako magdadagdagan, very important during these times. And of course, creativity. Hindi porke tayo ay math and science teacher, hindi tayo creative. Di ba? How does creativity come about in problem solving, for example? I come from a generation where there was only one solution, one answer. Okay. Nowadays, if you want to practice creativity in that same field, you can probably allow your students to make solutions of their own. It's not the optimal one, it's not the correct one, pero they were able to get to an answer, the right answer or an answer close to it. That's when you can come in and correct. That's when you can mentor. Who knows? Maybe this particular solution to this problem becomes the standard in the future because it's easier to understand for students, di ba? So hindi natin alam. Science, math, technology, engineering, all of these fields are constantly evolving. So why shouldn't education evolve with it? Okay, moving forward. So I've been talking about some principles which would give rise to this idea, this community-based academic network. But moving forward, let's think of these things, okay? We have to think of learning in terms of interrelated and interdependent systems. Naranasan natin yan during the pandemic. Mahirap pala na you're away from your school, from your students. We're actually dependent on them. Hindi ka makaturo na maayos pag hindi mo nakikita. That's a privacy issue actually. Pero you have to find different ways to support your students, to get that support you need also. So everything is interrelated and interdependent. We're not that independent, di ba? Sabi nga nila, no man is an island. Pero include din natin syempre yung women, ano? Inclusive na dapat tayo. Let's advocate for technology integration and equitable access. As much as possible, let's look for the minimum technologies that everybody can access in a class amongst our students. Okay? And then we build on that. Diba? Down and out, up and in. Now, mahirap yon, especially kung wala access yung iba. So, doon tayo papasok doon sa idea ng network later. There is no one magical solution for every learning need. Note that every person has a different way of learning things. Okay? May standards tayo sa basic education, may standards tayo sa tertiary. Okay? Understandable ang standards. Pero how they reach those standards, hindi yon standard. Okay? May kanya-kanya tayong paraan. So, let us cultivate the joy of learning in our students by allowing them to learn in a style, learn in a way that would fit who they are as people, di ba? Instead of we're thinking of the machine paradigm, the industrial paradigm of learning that we're the sources of information, we feed this information to the students and they will come up the same, each and every one in a class, okay? Instead, let's take a look at education as how Sir Ken Robinson wanted us to look at it, as more of an agricultural thing, where we nurture students so they can grow into the best version of who they are, diba? How to juggle that with meeting standards, that's another topic for another day. Pero ang importante dito is we have to accept iba-iba tayo eh. For us to say pare-pareho tayo, dapat naka-on lahat ng camera ninyo, medyo mahirap yon. Okay? And don't forget, even though we have technology in our names, when we talk about educational technology, education comes first. And who's the center of education? It's people. It's the learners, it's the learning facilitators, it's the administrators, it's the parents. Okay? people first. Education but before the technology. So, some concepts, some definitions that we have. So when we talk about online technologies, we're talking about technologies which are able to access the internet. So when your internet access is constant and reliable, you have full online. So you have your internet such as laptops, you have your smartphones, desktops, okay? When we have regulated or restricted access, the internet is metered, slow, or intermittent. This is a lot of us. Okay? Putol-putol yung internet. Napasilip tuloy ako sa internet ko. Baka naputol. Okay? Internet access is metered, slow, or intermittent. So, pwede siyang data kayo na meron kayong data cap na isa-throttle down yung internet ninyo or you run out of data credit. Okay? That happens when you have regulated access. Of course, you also have offline technologies, TV, radio. They're not really designed to access the internet. Okay? Or maybe you would prefer talagang analog, such as the old, they call them feature phones now, pero we used to call them cell phones. Okay, so yung mga may Nokia pa dyan, di ba? Raise your hands. So these are analog technologies. Digital ang DVD technically, pero you can prefer to stream that to connect that to an analog TV and it would still work, di ba? So offline. So take note, offline, regulated or restricted access, and online. Okay, so tatlo. Now, the framework I'm trying to design around this is called a community-based academic network. So an academic network is actually an organized system of different stakeholders. So learners, parents, teachers, etc. Now, when we say community-based, kailangan natin i-restrict, kailangan natin magkaroon ng boundaries. All learning systems have boundaries by design. So in our case, it's in a geographic proximity. It can be a small area in your purok. It can be the entire purok. Okay. It can be an entire village. It can be a subdivision. It can be the barangay. Okay? Pero we don't go beyond barangay level. Masyado na siyang malaki. Pero that's an academic network. So when we talk about an academic network, we also talk about the academe strictly. So schools, teachers, parents. That's it. What I am proposing is something different. That's the formal: teachers, schools, students, parents. That's the formal. Non-formal, some of us are trainers working from home. Okay? So if you work in an NGO, you work as a training officer in a bank, this is for you. Non-formal training kayo. Informal learning systems, when you learn on your own, di ba? When you learn how to cook on your own, galing sa cookbook, galing sa recipe, sa label ng spaghetti, di ba? So those are different systems. Now we combine those and form what we call community-based academic network. Basically, formal, non-formal, and informal learning systems in a small geographic location. Okay? Here's what you do. Okay? Here's a model for that framework. I call it Auravan. I'm not sponsored, pero I'm going to show you later why I decided on this particular acronym and allusion. Okay? So the Auravan. Okay? Online, regulated access, offline. So say you have online lessons, okay? Video lessons on YouTube posted by the teacher or the school. So somebody with who wants to help out, has regulated access, needs those videos downloaded. So somebody with a reliable online connection can download for somebody with regulated access. Okay? Now for somebody who is completely offline, somebody from the online or regulated access classifications can actually put those on CDs, DVDs, and distribute them to those people who have offline technologies with them. Kunyari, DVD player. Okay? There are still VCD players around, so you can use those. Okay? Or access on TV. Di ba? Kung merong TV lessons. So, tulungan tayo. Note that those who have can actually contribute to those who have less. Diba? let's take another example. Podcast lessons. Podcasts are usually audio only. So minsan may video, pero let's talk about the audio only podcasts. So you can download a podcast for somebody with regulated access. Okay? Or if you have regulated access and you want to do it for yourself, during downtime, which is basically in the evenings, kung kailan hindi na gumagamit ang corporate at ang government ng internet natin, you can actually download that for yourself. Okay? Pero once you have these files downloaded, maybe you can burn them on CDs for other people to listen to. Or send files to the other people through flash drives. Okay? So tulungan talaga tayo passing down. Okay? You'll note that it's actually like the fire brigade. Diba? How do fire brigades work in the olden times? You had buckets of water passed from a source to other people who are close to the fire. And they try to put it out. The consistent pace of passing down actually turns out the fire. That's why we call it Auravan. Here's another example. Online lesson via video conferencing. This is most relevant to us. So naka-Zoom tayo, di ba? So somebody with who has regulated access may need for somebody to record that video, okay, via video screen capture software or recording of the Zoom call, di ba? And you have the file, di ba? Here's the amazing part about it. Sometimes you have technologies you already have and you can use, but you never imagined the use for this, okay? So somebody who has access to the video can actually just play the audio while you're in a phone call. Point your cell phone to the microphone and then ask the other person on the other line to listen. They can take down notes while they listen to the audio. If there are video parts of it, probably the other person can get screen captures and send it via email or maybe print things out. But the important thing here is you use whatever you have at home to be able to transmit the message, the lesson, the topic. Okay? Pasa-pasa tayo. Yun sana yung magandang idea natin for a community-based academic network. Everybody helps. Now, sabi ko nga, pasa-pasa ng tubig. Some of you may already have experienced this, especially in NCR. Okay? So yung pag naubusan ng tubig, labasan ng balde. Pero sometimes, yung kapitbahay natin, dalawa yung balde, wala kang baldeng available, o sige, ikukuha kita ng tubig. Di ba ganun tayo? Okay? So that bayanihan spirit can be put to good use once again. We already have the community pantry movement. We can have something like this for our schools. Okay? It will lessen the pressure on the schools, which basically, especially the private schools, already have strapped funding because of the pandemic. Okay? We can reduce the stress of the teachers. Bakit? Kasi you can actually volunteer in a network such as this. Take a look at this particular diagram. Okay? The household can be helped by volunteers and mentors, or the school, or relevant agencies such as SEI, or the private sector. If there's a business in ICT in your area and they want to help out, they will. They can probably do the printing, or they can download some modules or videos from YouTube and place them on flash drives, which they can distribute to the students. I'm not for centralized distribution. This is more of a household thing or an office thing where you just put stuff outside and you ask for people who in need, okay, take. If you want to give back, then give back. Same thing with the community pantry, diba? Only for nerds this time. Only for school, for academics. The idea is, of course, you can interchange. This can be all households. This can be all volunteers. But the volunteers are important. Remember I said something about retired professionals, engineers, lawyers, or even if they're still working and they do have some downtime now that we don't have work outside of home, they can probably volunteer. Okay, I can teach calculus for an hour every MWF. Here's my contact details. Email me or send me a text. And if you want to be tutored, let's set up a remote session. What technologies do you have? Cell phone? O, we'll just call. Mahirapan kayo, pero you can describe. Yeah, video conferencing tools? Okay, then we can video conference. If you want to do this over email, we can do it over email. Diba? The UP Open University used to do open education, open and distance education using just SMS. Okay, so all these things are possible. Now it's up to us to look for those volunteers, connect them with students who are in need. We can start from there. Okay, that's your network. The idea is replace all of these, multiply that effect, and you have a small community, maybe 5 households at the start. But for others who want to join in, you can join in. You can't put in anything in the network right now. It's okay. When you're okay now, when you have better resources, better use of time in the future, that's the time when you can put in, diba? We can multiply the effect. We can have this network growing and growing. And it will really lessen the pressure on us teachers and on the schools and possibly on the community itself. Because suddenly, you care about your dog not barking during class time. Diba? Kasi iisipin mo na, I'm part of this network. Nakakahiya naman na tumitilaok yung manok kapag nagsuschooling yung kapitbahay. So, may mga ganun na factors. So, the idea is to grow this network. Okay? Now, of course, we have to know how to interact with each other in a network. So, may instructions na rin ako na nagawa. This is from a talk for students nga. And really, it's how to make learning done remotely a working relationship. Okay? So, literally, I took an LDR, long distance relationship advice column from Time Magazine and turned it into something that can be used for schools. Okay? So, first things first, technology is your best friend. Notify your instructors and your peers on your access situation. If you're a teacher, you notify your peers, your students, nawawalan ako ng internet ng ganitong oras ha. Hindi ko kayo ini-snub, hindi ko kayo sini-scene zone. But the important thing is, I will be back. Diba? Next, familiarize yourself with the capabilities and limitations of your devices. Ang importante dito is, whatever device you have, it's the best you have for now. Maximize nyo na muna yon before you buy something else. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Diba? One of the biggest problems in our university now is that students are afraid to ask their professors for help. Possibly kasi meron nag-exist na barrier naman talaga traditionally between teacher and student. With the pandemic and work from home restrictions, those barriers disappeared entirely. So, kailangan nating maging komportable to ask for help. Tayo din bilang teachers, walang problema. I get regular instruction from my students when we play games online. So, yun. Next is be committed to your relationships. Okay? Relationships amongst your peers, amongst your students. Diba? So, communicate when you can. Okay? Pag kaya ninyo. Mahirap kasi now you're not considering mental health as a major factor when you're communicating online. Sometimes yung simpleng email natin can come across as assertive, di ba? Or parang nakaka-insulto na sasagot kayo, nagalit. Hindi ganoon, okay? So when you feel good, when you're calm, that's when you communicate. Okay? Plan your messages so they are clear and concise. Wag yung pagkahaba-habang email, okay? Pwede naman maikli. Get straight to the point. One principle that you can use from communication here is, dun sa unang sentence ninyo, already state what you need. Hindi yung, hi, I'm John Paul Maligalig. I was your student in UPLB once upon a time. I got a grade of 5. Wag na ganun, di ba? Be straight to the point. Ano po yung kailangan ninyo? Then you put context after that sentence or paragraph. Notify instructors and peers before a deadline if you can't meet it. Hindi po ako aabot. Pero yung ano naman, mga 3 days before, di ba? Mahirap yung hindi po ako aabot 1 minute before the deadline. Okay? Parang that's a moot point. So, sabihin natin agad-agad. And you will get some leeway naman. Okay? Most of the time. Kasi we all understand our different situations nowadays. Now, if possible, negotiate deadlines and be mindful of them. Kung may deadline tayo sa trabaho, ang students natin may deadline sa kanilang requirements, allow them to negotiate. Yung reasonable naman, an extension of a few days to a week probably would be enough, depending on what you ask them to do. Diba? So if you extend something like that for your students, naturally, your school should also be able to extend that to you. Sana. Okay? Please clarify dates and times for submission. Guilty rin po ako dito. Pag sinabing within the day, pwedeng 11:59 p.m. kasi within the day pa siya. We have to make things clear. Okay? Don't message, email, or submit in installments. A lot of students treat email as if it's SMS or Facebook Messenger. Okay? They send one-sentence emails na sunod-sunod. Okay? Let's not do that. Okay? Email is for really electronic correspondence na pangmahabaan. If you need a short message, then use SMS or those messaging service. Pero, wag naman kayo mag-message ng 10 sa isang upuan na hindi pa sumasagot yung kabila, di ba? So, allow for some time to pause and digest what your message actually is. It's hard enough that you don't see the person. You're not able to take care of the interpret rather the nonverbals of the person. So take some time, digest the message. Okay, even when you're together. Okay, even when you're apart, be together. Okay, so collaborate with your peers whenever you can. That includes as teachers. If you're in a subject area, science probably, diba? Whenever you can work on some things. Organize, collective checking. So, magche-check ako ng ganitong oras. Gusto niyo sumama. Zoom call kayo, tapos nagche-check lang kayo. Pero at least nagkukwentuhan kayo, di ba? There's something to do. It replicates somewhat the faculty room atmosphere that we used to have. Organize workshops for individual work. Okay? So, kung may isang klase na kailangan nilang gumawa ng isang project, pwede nyo sabihin na, okay, you can do that on your own, but we have this time na 2 hours during this day in the afternoon where you can come in and if you decide to work, di ba, you can work. And as a teacher, you can also tutor during that time. So, kamusta ba yung project? Kailangan mo ng tulong? O sige, tabi tayo, di ba? Doon tayo mag-usap. So, at least may support na nangyayari. At nakikita ng estudyante na hindi sila really working alone. Invite instructors to work with the class during group workshops. So, parang yun na rin yun. Okay? Now, make fun plans. Okay? Ask the instructor for periods where the class can socialize. As a rule, I have 15 minutes in live sessions ang tawag namin, in classes, where they can just socialize. Usap-usap sila. Ano ang nangyari sa'yo? Ganon. Okay. Ako rin, sumisingit din ako. Pero during these days, when we're in our project mode, my entire class is now socialization. Kasi they're doing the project in teams by themselves. So, yung class time namin, socialization time na lang. It's the time when it's a common time for them to come to class and really just speak out on the different things that they're experiencing. And so far, it's been healthy for them. Choose to do evaluation activities where you can share your talents. Baka gusto nyo mag-design ng, okay, sinong gusto ng exam or sinong gustong gumawa ng kanta or sinong gustong gumawa ng Spotify playlist. Ito yung mga different options for one requirement. Pwede yun. Okay? Since outcomes-based education ang tertiary, meron kaming option for that. I'm not so sure with basic. Pero that's an idea, okay? I asked my students, instead of submitting an essay, to submit Spotify playlists where the songs, the lyrics of the songs, actually convey the same message in the essay. So, kakaiba siya, na-enjoy ng mga estudyante, they got to share their favorite songs na may ganong meaning pala. So, kahit tayo mga teacher natututo from them, pag ganun. Okay? So, organized group class wellness activity. So, the online workout. Pwedeng, you can do your Zumba with your students if you want. Okay? I recently did workout sessions with football org that I advise. So, pwede na ganun. And actually, you're off the screen. You're not really concentrating on the screen. You're off screen. You're working out, di ba? So, nawawala yung screen stress natin. Okay? So, sorry, be confident and secure in your relationships. Please practice good netiquette. I don't know if it's teachers, pero mahilig tayo doon sa gentle reminder na para sa akin is a passive-aggressive way of saying na, hoy, sinabi ko na sa iyo yan before. So, you can mean a gentle reminder, pero say it straight, di ba? Please be reminded of. Okay? So, let's review our netiquette. 1990s pa ang netiquette, yung idea ng netiquette. So, review nyo. Maraming materials about that. And please practice them. Okay? Read messages and email from start to finish at least twice. You may have misinterpreted something. You may have thought na some word was a swear word na hindi naman. So, basahin natin multiple times para alam talaga natin yung message. At we can assume with good accuracy kung ano yung context na pinanggagalingan ng tao. Okay? Please refrain from sending messages, email under duress, especially yung may mga messages na all caps na, ay sorry, na caps lock ko lang. Pero feeling attack ka na, di ba? So, please, okay? Stick to a schedule. You set work hours for your students. You should set work hours for yourself. Hindi po ibig sabihin na dedicated tayo na teacher at 24/7 ang ating work hours. Okay? That is admirable and also very suicidal. So, let's set realistic work hours. 8 to 5 is good. Okay? The individual student consultation during the evenings, okay lang din yun. Pero not the entire class ng 6 to 10. Okay? Kailangan nyo rin ng pahinga. Okay? Importante po yan. We have to keep ourselves healthy to be able to help our students. For post-work hours, please use scheduled sending. For those of you who are not familiar with this, doon po sa for example, Google Mail, Gmail, doon po sa send button may drop-down box doon sa kanan na maliit, pero may drop-down arrow. Click on that, you can schedule when the email should be sent. Diba? So if you have something on your mind, makakalimutan ninyo, pero it's 10 p.m. or worse, I receive email sometimes at 3 a.m. Okay? At mababaw ang tulog ko so nagigising ako. Pero you can send the email at a later hour. It's already there in the system, ready to be sent. Okay? So use scheduled sending. Free time is not available time. Hindi porke sinabi ninyong wala akong meeting, wala akong klase, available na kayo. Sometimes you really just need to take a deep breath and reconsider the decisions you made in your life. Bakit ako nag-teacher? Hindi. Okay? So, hindi ibig sabihin na somebody is free, they can be available for a meeting, for consultation. Make sure na you ask people, okay, kailan ka available? Hindi yung kailan ka free. Diba? Kasi it means that you respect that other person's free time. Okay? Last na to. Let's set clear rules and boundaries. Sa amin, ang slogan namin is honor and excellence. Okay? So, dapat magaling ang estudyante, di ba? And dapat honorable. Hindi nandadaya, hindi nag-cheat sa exam, hindi nagsasabit ng plagiarized na paper. Pero, okay, we temper these with respect. Okay? Kung feeling ninyo na mas importante pa yung pagiging honor student ng isang bata kaysa sa yung respetuhin kanya bilang teacher o respetuhin mo siya bilang estudyante, there's something wrong there. Okay? Respect is one of the things that makes communication possible. Okay? So, importante ang respect. Be consistent with your boundaries. Pag sinabi natin 8 to 5, 8 to 5 talaga. Okay? The only time you can make an exception is during emergencies. So please, importante ang boundaries. Again, this is not an affront to us being teachers and ready to serve. Okay? Iba 'yun. Iba yung may oras ka para sa pamilya mo, 'di ba? Iba yung may oras ka para sa sarili mo. Those are still important things. That's why we set boundaries. Ang school year nagsisimula, nagtatapos. May clear siya na boundary. Bakit tayo wala? Dapat meron din. When in doubt, ask, don't assume. Okay? Huwag laging mag-assume. Okay? So, ask and listen, di ba, to people asking. Kasi sometimes, doon nagkakaroon ng communication breakdown. When we hear, pero we don't listen. Two different things. Now, learning is good. Schools are good. We're doing God's work, so to speak. This is a very honorable profession. Pero we can be better. And how is that? When we admit na during this pandemic, we can't do everything on our own. We have government agencies such as SEI, diba, willing to help us with webinars like this. Pero maybe in the future, they can help us set up a community-based academic network, which actually reduces the stress of the learners in the community, reduces the stress on the local school systems, di ba? And what does that entail? If everybody is less stressed, we learn better. We learn more. When we learn more, di ba? We go through school with better perspectives on different things. We have better interpretations of the world. We have better science. Diba? And math. Huwag natin exclude yung mga math teachers. Baka isipin nila, ini-exclude ko sila. Okay? The important thing here is less stress, better learning. Okay? And that's why I think a community-based initiative such as the can help. Okay? And that's why I use that particular acronym. Okay? I fit the term around the acronym. It's because learning can be better. So thank you for having me today, SEI. Thank you for listening to my ideas. And if you really need help setting up your own community-based academic network, let's talk. Here's my email address and feel free to contact me. Okay. Sana office hours lang. Thank you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Professor John Paul Maligalig, for sharing your insights on strategies in addressing ICT inequality in remote learning, the community-based academic network. Okay, so that was a very informative lecture. So we now open the floor for questions. Anyone who would like to start? So do we have questions in the chat box? So give them a few minutes to absorb absorb yung yung mga information. So Orokan was a term. Okay, so another that's good. I was just informed that some of the teachers were already using that Orokan approach, but now no term to that approach. So now there's a term na pala.
Yan. Okay lang po. Kung naunan yung naisip yung idea, ito, pagsama-samahin natin tapos we can get credit for it, 'di ba? Hindi ko that's a principle I learned from high school din na ang sabi sa amin ay karunungan ay laging malaya at laganap sa madla. So hindi tayo dapat madamot doon sa discoveries natin In fact, what are discoveries for except to share with the rest of the world, 'di ba?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So let me check the chat box. So these are just comments like very informative. Prof. JP, thank you, thank you. Uh, yep. Questions? Oh, there's one comment. This is similar to, oh baka kanina pa to. This is similar to Khan Academy where they
Mhm.
have YouTube channel and Khan Academy app for regulated apps. Kanina pa to siguro.
Mhm. Ayun. Pero we'll do it na tayo, sana, 'di
Yeah.
ba? So tatapatan natin ang Khan Academy. Ay,
Another comment here.
ma'am, may comment po na sana may CPD units to. Actually, Sir Noel, I'm pretty sure na when you get a certificate, you can actually apply to PRC yourself.
Mm.
Though that would be the more roundabout way of doing it. Mas komplikado siya. Hindi siya automatic, pero pwede niyo pong i-request actually na especially kung may seal naman ng SEI.
Hmm. Actually, we apply for CPD units, but I think April, any update on this webinar?
Ay, Miss Hincha, wala po dito for this webinar.
Okay, yeah, for this seminar, unfortunately,
Opo.
we're not apply for CPD points
Opo,
here.
we were not able to po.
Mhm. I see.
Okay, another.
Yung sinabi po ni Sir JP, pwede po yun na ipapakita po nila pag nag-renew po sila, ipapakita po nila yung certificate sa PRC. Pero syempre, mas mahabang process po siya.
Okay, unlike kung talagang na-i-apply na natin and the points were previously given na. Okay, another comment here. My favorite parts are number 1, the technology that you know best and available is the best technology that you can use. And number 2, if teachers are less stressed, they can teach better. Yeah.
Medyo sad lang po yung 2 yung 2 parang dapat common sense and
I agree. April, over Facebook, do they have comments there?
Wala din po. Puro po siya, thank you, good morning, thank you. But there are no questions po.
Okay. I think it's loud and clear.
Yes po, opo.
Loud and clear. Napaka nung information na gusto i-impart ni sir. But let's wait for a few minutes more. Few seconds. Tingnan natin kung may papasok pa. Those who would like to ask questions can just speak up, unmute your microphone, and feel free to talk. Or you could even type your question in the chat box. A comment from our colleague, one of our colleagues, si Josh, community-based academic network. That's good. We can adapt the community and pour in our innovations there like a model 1. Yan.
Pwede rin.
Pwede rin.
Ano po yun? Siguro initiative naman ng SEI na pababa naman siya na gano'n. Pwede naman. Tulong din po ako dyan, ma'am, kung gusto niyo gawin. Madali lang po ako kausap kasi nga ako ay laking DOST kid.
So take note, Josh. Si Sir JP is willing to help.
Volunteer na yan. Ako first volunteer. Pero kayo ang kailangan magsulat. Kasi ang dami namin ginagawa din.
Yes. Any more?
Meron pong pumasok na question.
Sige.
Pwede pong patanong how to do remote lab classes po.
Okay, very oft asked question. Lab classes. We have to define anong klaseng lab. Ma'am April, ano ba yan? Are we talking chemistry, physics,
More on
bio?
physics to sir, physics.
Physics. Okay,
Lab
sige.
classes, yes.
Ang daya ng physics kasi mas madali ang physics eh. Especially when we're talking about force. Ma'am? Ma'am, sir, kung sino man po ang nagtanong, hindi ko kasi nakita yung pangalan ninyo, no? Pero ganito, may approach na ginawa sila sa India. In fact, there's a TED Talk on this, na kung ano yung indigenous materials dun sa lugar, yun yung gagamitin ninyo. And you as instructional designers, i-design nyo around what is commonly available. So for example, kailangan nyo ng pendulum. Diba? Mag-ano tayo? Anong tawag doon sa motion na yan? Sorry. It's been a long while, 25 years since high school. So, kunyari, kailangan nyo ng pendulum. Instead of having yung standard na pendulum natin na weight, you adjust for your lesson. You adjust the computations. And then sabihin natin pwedeng bote ng kunyari 500 ml na bote ng soft drinks, 'di ba? Tapos ano yung line mo, yung tali mo, instead of nylon na usually ginagamit natin pwedeng yung twine rope, 'di ba? Pero may specifications pa rin tayo. Pero ang important thing here is we have lab at home. Part of the reason why I loved chemistry when I was in high school was when I was younger, mga grade 2, I was given an experiments at home book nung bata ako. Tapos yung mga ginagamit na chemicals doon yung simpleng baking soda and vinegar o kaya sugar, 'di ba? Yung mga what you really have available at home, 'di ba? Meron din akong book about magnets na ganun, 'di ba? So, ling yan sa office bakit wala na naman mga magnet yung mga sa ref? Mga plastic na lang yung natira. Nasaan yung magnet? Tapos dahan-dahan na ako mag-step out kasi nasa akin lahat ng magnet, 'di ba? So, pwede po yung ganun. It's not what we're used to pagdating doon sa lab. Of course, yung classroom natin, yung kingdom natin Pero at least meron silang magagamit na they can get at least a glimpse of the phenomenon you're talking about. So, madali sa physics, mas mahirap sa chemistry kasi reagents, pinakamahirap especially sa biology. Kasi hindi kayo pwede lumabas. So, yun. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you, sir. Okay, there's one off-topic question daw. What's that? May triple, anyway po kasi kami sa senior high school. Allowed po ba ang students to do their experiments sa DOST? Anong particular experiments? But I heard of some students doing experiments in DOST upon request. Yeah. I think so. You have to write a letter to what institution, research institution would you like to do your experiments. I believe with the guidance of a researcher or a scientist from the US.
May comment din po na pwedeng
I heard of
mag-simulate
students.
sa desktop or laptop ng ng
Sir,
lab.
go ahead, sir.
Ayun po. May comment dito si Sir Noel again na
yeah. Pero,
kung may laptop or desktop, they can utilize simulations sa lab. That's perfect. Pero kaya po yung sagot ko naging ganun kasi nga ang approach natin is down and out. So you start from the minimum. Okay? So it's more of a paradigm shift in thinking. Mahirap kasi na nandun tayo agad sa taas. So tama naman si Sir. Pero let's start from the bottom. Tapos kung may computer sila, di ba? So kayo ay mga 2 steps na mas mataas, sir. So I applaud your insight din. Pero meron pa yun somewhere sa gitna na what if may mga mas specialized equipment ka at home, which is possible. Ayun. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Any more? Oy, samantalahin na natin si sir habang andito.
Ay, wag po.
Hira tong pagkakataon na ito.
Okay. Yung iba po, baka gusto niyo po mag-off mic, baka mas simple sa inyo. Tanungin na lang. Okay lang po. Hindi naman po ako judgmental. Mapanghusga lang.
Okay, so April, no more questions on your end?
Yes po. So, nag-ano po may chat po si Mr. Rubino, yung very interesting discussion from Sir John.
Yeah, congrats.
Yeah, congrats po sa ating lahat.
Okay, I guess that's it. End this webinar. At this juncture, we'd like to present our virtual certificate of recognition to our resource person. So it's from SEI, DOST, Science Teacher Academy for the Regions. A certificate of recognition is awarded to Mr. John Paul Maligalig for serving as resource person in the webinar entitled Strategies in Addressing ICT Inequality in Remote Learning, the Community-Based Academic Network under the project Science Teacher Academy for the Regions, STAR, held on May 12, 2021, signed by our director, Dr. Giuseppe Bio. Thank you very much, sir.
Yay. Thank you po.
Congrats.
Hawakan ko ba yung ano, tas picture? Ganun. Hindi, joke lang. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so thank you very much for spending your precious time with us, and do hope that you got new information, insights in this webinar. And we ask you to stay tuned to Star FB page and our website estar.ph for more webinars coming up, announcements on our trainings coming up, and other activities of the Science Teacher Academy for the regions. So once again, thank you very much and a pleasant morning to all of you. Stay safe. Thank you very much, Sir JP. Thank you so much. Sa
Thank you
uulitin
po.
po.
Yes po. No problems.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye
Thank you,
po.
sir. Sa ulitin po.
Take care, everyone.